We're in the kitchen now with Charlie Adler. And Charlie, what type of beer are you going to cook with this recipe?
Well, we're going to have actually a local brewer, a friend of mine, Brian Strumke with Stillwater Ales. And he's what we call a gypsy brewer.
Wow.
He travels around the world like a gypsy, making beer all over the place. And his specialty is making unusual, flavorful beers. And I thought this would be a great beer. He's going to be at our beer festival as well, Stillwater Ales.
Oh, okay.
And I thought I'd showcase an American-made Belgian-style beer with a Belgian dish, which is what we're doing.
It's got a nice label there. I like that.
Oh, I know. It's so
pretty.
creative guy.
He
creative
is.
guy. I wish I could have brought him on the show, but he's on a jet right now.
Oh.
So
what do we have here now?
well, this is Carbonnade. Carbonnade is a Belgian fancy term for stewed meat.
Is it?
But what you do is you take a really inexpensive cut of meat. This is a chuck, a shoulder, with lots of fat. But that is going to break down this lovely sauce. And we've started with how do you brown it too?
Yeah.
You're going to brown. You put your salt, you pepper it, and you put it in some kind of fat. My preference for fat is a little butter or a little oil, but you can also use bacon fat. Any kind of fat's going to work. And you will cook about 3 minutes per side. You see the lovely browning in there?
I like that, yeah.
And you do 2, 3, 4 sides, and then you take it out,
Looks
and then you
good.
make the other part of the dish. And that's ready to go. That you can even keep in the refrigerator like that.
All right.
That browning, by the way, is the flavor. That is
What does it, huh?
Right.
So what do we have here?
Now what we're going to do is take the browning part of that meat. We had originally cooked that meat in here, and it got real dark, almost burnt. And
I
we're like,
noticed
ooh,
it, yeah.
look at that. But you know what? You add onions to that, and a little bit more butter, because you know butter is good.
Yeah.
That is always good. And what's going to happen is that's going to caramelize and make this wonderful flavor. I added a little bit of salt. 8 cups of onions. Sounds like a lot of onions.
That's what we have in here, 8
That's
cups.
8 cups.
Of
It looks
white
like about
onions, right.
white onions. And I got to tell you
Chopped
something.
up very small.
Yeah, you do a 1/4 inch chop. And I'm going to tell you something. That is just the bottom base flavor for this whole thing. Those are going to melt in your mouth after 3 hours of cooking. You barely know they're even there. And this will all come together as a lovely stuff.
Wow, looks good.
So all I'm going to do now is some chefs are really anti-flour.
Yeah.
And I know it's very old school, but I like flour. Flour is going to give this, I'm putting this right on the onions. I'm going to stir that in. And I'm basically creating kind of I guess you could call it a roux. You're taking a fat and a starch. And it's going to stick together, okay? If you don't cook the flour enough, you've probably seen that. It gets real lumpy.
Yes,
and also, you don't get that full flavor that you want. And you got to do that to taste. That's going to stick, so we want that to stick. We're going to create a little browning. And I do want to mention, since I'm doing a beer cooking demonstration, that beer has a lot of lovely flavors. You know, you've got your sweet, your sour, your bitter, your salty. But the one thing that beer brings out in food, more than anything, and this dish is perfect, is umami. And I always get in trouble because I always go, what is that? We have in our taste buds the ability to taste this 5th taste, this really, really savory flavor called umami. And if you could, I should probably pull this out. It is creating the most beautiful, that's all the flour it needs right there.
All right.
That is going to create a mouthfeel and flavor and aroma that just brings, I don't know, how do you say it, carnal feelings. I got to be careful here. This is a public show. But it's going to make you feel like this is so homey and comfort food and so delicious. And we got that. That was about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to give another slurp or two. Actually, let it sit for a second.
All right.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use beer. Now, you can use wine. You could use red wine in this dish instead.
Yeah.
You could make like a beef bourguignon. That's basically what this is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this really flavorful beer, and it's going to bring out totally different flavors. I also have a little bit, well, let's do this now. We're going to, wait, we got to use our smell sense.
Boy, it does smell that aroma.
Oh my. You could just take crackers and put it right in there. But now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a sauce so we can braise the meat slowly. I started with, we also had some bay leaf and thyme in there. I didn't show that. That was cooked before. Sorry about that.
So what do we have in here? You added some broth.
This is a beef broth.
Beef broth.
I usually use my own, but you know what? In a pinch, you can use the store-bought. I think it tastes just as good.
Either way.
Because you know what's really going to bring out the flavor of this dish? The secret is going to be, we're going to turn this up just a little bit just to get it going, get it boiling. We're going to get it to a simmer. You're going to use exactly 1.5 cups of this beer. Exactly. Are you measuring?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you don't have to dig that.
Well, I overdid it a little bit.
Look at that foaming.
And you always pour a little for yourself because remember, it is beer. And the recipe said...
a little for me, too.
You want some more?
Yeah,
But isn't that like your 4th today there, Lindsay? I don't know about that.
That's plenty.
Don't tell your fans about that. Okay. But cheers to having me back on the show, and cheers to a great dish. Yeah. Isn't that flavorful?
Great flavor.
I mean, it's like caramel
unbelievable.
Spices and herbs. You know, for so long, I did wine classes. When I wrote the book, I Drank on the Job, and we ignored beer.
Yeah.
And now, wouldn't you know it, beer is starting to catch up.
It is.
And right now,
good.
you know, people today, they don't only want beer, they want beer with flavor. and they want
Yes,
something
I
that's
could see that.
recognizable.
Right.
So what happened is a couple breweries recently opened up, and I was mentioning this. DC Bra. Did you know? Ready for a fact? Did you know that DC did not have a brewery for almost 60 years? But it gets
Wow.
better. What was the last brewery in DC? It was 1956.
Wow.
It was Heyrich. And where was it built? You ready? The Kennedy Center.
No.
Yeah, the Kennedy Center is built where Heyrich Brewery. So it just tells you a little bit about the history of this town. This town was not always such a highfalutin, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It was a real home, and this town used to have 5 breweries. Did you know before Prohibition, there were 1,700 breweries? That's
Oh, my
1920. Today, we have 1,700 breweries. And the growth in breweries is about, my understanding is there's going to be about 700 new breweries in the next 2 years. So,
So we'll look forward to that.
Huge growth. You better start drinking beer.
Yeah. So what do we do? We put
Now we're
this
gonna
in
get
there?
we're gonna get this up a little bit in temperature,
Yeah.
and you know what? No, we can go ahead and put the meat in. This is one
Yeah.
of those things you can do that now, you can do that later. But what we would do is we're gonna incorporate the meat and the beer, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the heat up a little bit, and we're gonna pop that in the oven for around we got about 325 degrees for about 3 hours.
3 hours to really let it cook. And,
There's no rush in this. If someone said to me, how long or when do you know it's ready, you're going to know both by smell and when you can take like a fork or a knife and,
And
you
it's
stick
very
it to it, it's going to be like
soft.
pot roast. It's just going to break down. And that's all those lovely.
I have a cover here for you. So we
Okay.
put the cover on too?
Yeah, let me just give it another 15
Okay.
seconds. Go. We're ready. Now we're ready. And you're going to pop that in the oven because
Okay, and I
I'm
had
too
the
afraid
oven-
it'll eat out of the pot. and
Oven
I'll get in
on
trouble.
for 350.
Okay.
And
350 is good.
we'll put this in and we'll
2,
be
3 hours. You're good
right
to go.
back. Wow.